But now, small is big. People who say they worry about their food and their environment are looking for locally grown produce from small farms. Local meat producers want a piece of the action. But small farmers often have a difficult time getting their animals to market. Many cannot pay the cost of a large slaughterhouse. Also, the number of slaughterhouses in the United States has decreased sharply since the 1980s. Some small farmers have to travel long distances to have their animals killed and processed. But now, if a farmer cannot get to the slaughterhouse may come to the farmer. The United States Department of Agriculture, the USDA, is helping farmers to pay for and operate mobile slaughter units. These are trucks and trailers equipped to do the job, including inspection. A federal inspector travels with the unit. Last September, the USDA announced a $65 million program called Know Your Farmer, Know Your Food. The aim is to support local farmers, rural communities, and healthy eating. As part of that effort, officials are trying to spread the word about mobile slaughter units. 10 years ago, in Washington State, 15 farmers raising sheep and other livestock formed a cooperative. Their group, the Island Grown Farmers Cooperative, wanted to build a traditional slaughterhouse, but neighbors objected. So, the farmers designed a slaughterhouse on wheels. The Department of Agriculture approved the first mobile slaughter unit in 2002. There are now 44 farmers in that cooperative. And mobile units are being used around the country, not just for sheep and cattle. A group in Alaska uses a mobile slaughterhouse for reindeer. And an organization in South Dakota has a mobile unit for buffalo. The United States has a limited number of federal meat inspectors. Some farm co-ops operate with state inspectors. But red meat and meat that will be sold in other states must have federal inspection. Right now, officials say 9 groups are operating federally approved mobile units. They say these slaughterhouses on wheels are not only a way to build local food systems, but also to help local economies. And that's the VOA Special English Agriculture Report. For more reports, go to voaspecialenglish.com.
Report. Farmers may not be able to prevent natural disasters, but they can at least try their best to reduce losses. For example, they can plant crops that are more likely to survive extreme weather. In north-central Vietnam, people with small farms do not plant rice between September and December. Seasonal rains might destroy the rice, so instead they plant lotus seeds on raised beds. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization says the lotus seeds bring a good price in local markets. Farmers in the Philippines are showing new interest in crops like winged beans, string beans, arrowroot, and cassava. The Asian Disaster Preparedness Center says traditional crops like these can survive the fierce storms that often strike the islands. The United Nations says Some African farmers grow Bombera groundnuts during long, dry periods. The seeds of this drought-resistant plant can be boiled for eating or for making flour. In some parts of the world, farmers grow vetiver grass. Researchers in Thailand wrote about vetiver in 2007 in the journal Science Asia. They noted that the grass can absorb and control the spread of harmful wastewaters, like those from pig farms. Agricultural expert William Rivera says vetiver resists difficult conditions. It reduces damage from heavy rains. And vetiver planted on earthen dams may strengthen them against breaks and flooding. William Rivera also speaks approvingly of alfalfa. Its deep roots can find and take up groundwater. Those roots also help hold the soil against winds. And alfalfa can be a valuable food source for animals. The deep and extensive roots of sunflowers make them another good candidate for resisting extreme conditions. The tall plants have brightly colored heads that provide seeds and oil. North Dakota grows more hectares of sunflowers than any other American state. But North Dakota is better known as a top wheat-producing state. Hans Kandel works at the North Dakota State University Extension Service in Fargo. He says farmers in some parts of North Dakota plant wheat that is ready to harvest in only about 100 days. That way, it can grow before the hot, dry months of July through September. And that's the VOA Special English Agriculture Report. You can find captioned videos of our reports along with transcripts and MP3s at voaspecialenglish.com. You can also post questions and comments.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Agriculture Report. Iron deficiency anemia is the most common nutritional disorder in the world. People with the condition do not have enough red blood cells. As the name suggests, iron deficiency anemia results from a lack of iron. The World Health Organization says half the pregnant women and about 40% of preschool children in developing countries are not getting enough iron. Anemic adults cannot work to their full ability, and pregnant women who are anemic have a greater risk of problems during childbirth. Michael Hambidge of the University of Colorado is an expert on child health issues. He says the effects of anemia on children can be permanent. In a new study, Dr. Hambidge and others suggest that new kinds of grain may help reduce iron deficiency. They tested flour made from a special kind of pearl millet. The researchers used traditional crop breeding methods to increase the amount of iron in the pearl millet. The process is called biofortification. Researchers in India prepared meals with flour made from the biofortified millet. They used the meals to feed 21 children who had low iron levels. Then they compared these children to 19 others who received similar meals without the biofortified flour. The researchers found that children who ate the high iron millet meals satisfied their daily requirements for the mineral. The other children did not. Experts say millet is a good crop to reach those in need of iron because it usually costs less to grow than other grains. It also requires little rainfall. The first high iron biofortified pearl millet is already on the market in India. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
Report. A discovery in a laboratory could help lead to a new generation of drought-resistant crops. Drought conditions cause plants to produce a stress hormone called abscisic acid. This chemical activates a set of protein molecules called receptors. These receptors then activate a series of changes to help the plant survive. The natural reaction of the receptors is to close so-called guard cells on and inside the leaves. That closure decreases water loss and stops the plant from growing to save water during a drought. Researchers say they have discovered a way to supercharge or increase this reaction. Sean Cutler at the University of California, Riverside led the team. The scientists engineered abscisic acid receptors that can be turned on at will and stay on. They tested hundreds of versions of engineered receptor genes until they found ones that worked right together. The team worked with Arabidopsis, a plant often used in experiments. The results recently appeared in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Professor Cutler says testing the new receptors in the field may take several years. He also points out that drought is not the only cause of plant stress. What would be stressful for a crop plant is not stressful for a cactus, for example, because the cactus has evolved to live in dry deserts. In another development, scientists have produced a new system for analyzing genetic markers in rice plants. A genetic marker is a DNA sequence with a known location. It can help scientists identify nearby genes linked to individual qualities or traits. Anna McClung and Georgia Eisinga are genetic scientists with the United States Department of Agriculture. Their new system will let researchers genetically fingerprint rice varieties and gain a better understanding of the markers. Until now, breeders have been limited to using perhaps 200 markers. But modern technology lets scientists identify differences throughout the plant's genome, its genetic map.